understand now, girl, that I need you right here by my side, baby, give in. Right now, baby, give in. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, good day folks, welcome aboard. Psychedelic here. And in this video today we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that I picked up I think mid-July of this year. These are the house call finds. Got these from a buddy, a longtime viewer of the channel, lives here in town. I won't be name dropping except for maybe the username. Goes by the name FM in Lincoln. And he, yeah, like I said, been a longtime viewer probably since like the golden age of the vinyl community. Like I'm going to go back to say like 2015, 2016 when I first started making videos at least. And yeah, he had mentioned, he left some comments in the live streams I've been doing in the past, and then said that he had some titles that he thought I'd be interested in. And I'd actually got his contact info like the year prior because we had met up for the first time at the Storm Cellar when I was DJing there at the time. And yeah, finally hooked up just this last couple months, and came out with some really nice upgrades. There's some nice upgrade copies, a couple doubles that I have now I'm going to be replacing, and then I think the last two I still need to dive into a little bit yet. I haven't actually spun them, but I got an idea what they are. So without keeping you here too far, let's just dive into them. So this first one, this is a massive upgrade for me. For the longest time I had the 73 Palm Tree press on Warner Brothers. Of course we're talking about Black Sabbath. This is the green label original. Look how beautiful that cover is, man. Nice spine, nice seams. I think it's splitting a little bit on the corner there, but it's got like some creasing on the back too, but you pretty much only see that in the light. So obviously I don't know if I need to go the whole backstory on this, but Black Sabbath for me were pretty much the gateway drug when I was a teenager. Just, you know, kind of fell in love with their whole discography. Yes, even the Tony Martin era. I'm guilty. You know, still have some appreciation for that era a little bit, but I'm not like a huge heavy metal guy at the same time to this day. Like, I appreciate some bands for sure, but when it comes to Black Sabbath, the origins, the GOAT, Black Sabbath, this is the band for me, man. This is still left a large impact on my life, and to this day when I listen to them, there's always a level of like appreciation that gets pushed through the barrier, and just love these guys more and more every day. I, you know, decide to stream them or put them on vinyl. Just the musicianship, I mean, it's like the best pack. Bill Ward, Geezer, Tony, Ozzy that we just lost. I mean, what an impact they made on the world at this time. There's just nothing like it, with all the sinister tones, you know, some of the occult themes happening within the songs. It wasn't so much that I was into that, you know, whole thing with all the different themes working. It was just something with the, you know, Tony's guitar and just how they originated out of the whole jazz and British blues boom that was going on at the time, and just sort of transforming it into this really like apocalyptic, sort of Armageddon type of rock direction that they were bursting out of the gate with. And yeah, my first love was, well, the first one I actually listened to was Heaven and Hell. That was my entry point into the band. That got me interested at least. And then I heard Paranoid. I was like, man, this sounds a lot different. The vocals are different, you know. Coming to find out it was Ozzy like a year later after I had listened to it. And to me, Paranoid was like the game changer for me. But anyways, with all that said, really glad to upgrade this copy. Of course, I would love to have an original Vertigo, which I think I just looked at the prices. I think they were starting at like $600 now, like UK presses. I don't know if there's much debate, but I've always heard that the Green Warners do sound pretty beastly, so I'm pretty satisfied with this. If I had a favorite track, I have to go with Wicked World, man. If I had to pinpoint a favorite track on here, which of course Wicked World was replaced with Evil Woman in the UK, right? I wish they stuck with Wicked World. I love the guitar tone where the track goes, and then that middle breakdown point where it gets kind of moody, kind of mystical. And then of course, tracks like Wasp, Behind the Wall of Sleep, that whole suite there they got going on. The Wizard, Warning, it's like, forget about it. The whole thing just works somehow and has really stood the test of time for being nearly 60 years old approaching. So pretty wicked stuff, man. Black Sabbath. Yeah, just very, very light scuffs on this one. Oftentimes you see this has been partied to death, man. Hopefully it's coming in okay. Look at that sheen. It's really good. Yeah, I came across a copy. If you guys spotted it in my Kansas City video, that copy's gonna stay there for eternity. It was like a $100 copy on the green label, and that thing is just, the whole vinyl's just wrecked, man. It's all hammered up. Continuing on with this next one, I'm really happy about this one. Been holding off for a copy for years because I was like, I gotta find a clean Warner Brothers 7 Arts press of this, and finally happened at this house call. So this is Anthem of the Sun by the Grateful Dead. This one's always tough to find in good shape as far as the sleeve, but this is the best I've seen it so far. It really suffers a lot of ring wear, and a lot of those Warner titles really do suffer, some a lot of seam damage and ring wear city. So the Grateful Dead, kind of get my origin story out of the way, I guess, as well. The first one I ever heard from them was Terrapin Station of all records, which was kind of a funny gateway to get into. I low-key kind of like some moments on there. I like how they kind of go prog on the whole side 2 of that suite. But we're talking about Grateful Dead for me. Oftentimes I like some of the nuances and characteristics that they developed, like the whole idea of rock being kind of free and improvisational and just kind of tripped out in this sort of like countrified way. But at the same time, I really don't care so much for like the bluesiness or like the banjo picking side, especially when they turned over to like Working Man's Dead, American Beauty. Not too big on those records, just not my preference, you could say. But of course, like anybody else, I think you should at least experience live Dead once in your life. It's kind of one of those quintessential listens, especially Dark Star, right? It is kind of one of those things you must listen to at least once and get experienced with, right? But as far as like, their sound goes, I oftentimes like the knockoff bands, the second tier Grateful Dead bands like Mountain Bus or the Farm Band. They do the Grateful Dead better than the band themselves, in my opinion. With that said, this is probably my favorite, you could say, studio record, but it's like a studio live record. If you know the whole backstory of this, they recorded half of this, like the live side in LA and then the studio work in New York City. So you got the West and East Coast sound kind of emerging together. And this is probably their most heady experiment, I would say. I mean, their first 3 are pretty good, but this is like the peak, the apex for me. And although I don't listen to it as much as I nearly used to, I mean, I listened to this all the time back in high school, especially like that's for the other one, Born Cross-Eyed Alligator, minus the whole percussive solo that they go on. Really love where this album takes you. It's just kind of like interweaving all these different studio tricks, and it's kind of a sound collage of like chimes and dropping things on the piano and all this kind of crazy experimental work intertwined with the West Coast acid rock kind of sound. So Anthem of the Sun, and I love the graphics too. Obviously very iconic cover. And I do believe, there's a little bit of a debate as far as which mix is better, because like later pressings have a different remix to it, and this is like the original mix. I think they're both pretty good in their own world. Like individually, they're both pretty spot on, delicious in their own way. This one has a little more like subtleties, stuff that you can't hear audibly at times, and then it kind of peeks out some other different sound collage moments in other tracks. I don't really have a preference. I love both mixes. Probably do prefer the original though. It's on the green Warner 7 Arts. Just look at that sheen. This is a beautiful copy as well. It's pretty scarce you find them in this shape, right? At least in my experience. I've been trying to track this down for like 10, 15 years to find a, VG plus copy. And it finally happened, I think. So, sleeve could be a little better, but I'm not going to complain too much. The spine could be better at least. So we're glad to pick that up. It's part of the bundle. These next two, we'll get into some controversial territory, if it weren't controversial enough with me in the Grateful Dead. But we're going to keep it real here. It's just opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, but it's just my preference, right? So this band, the Zombies, She's Not There, Tell Her No. This came out in '65, I think, in the US. This is the US press on Parrot. It's a mono press. Don't see this one very often, or let alone both their albums. Odyssey and Oracle come some years later. The Zombies in general, not too big on, especially this whole sound that was going on at the time. Of course, the origins have to land somewhere, right? With the whole clubby rhythm and blues kind of sound coming out of the UK. Definitely sounds, reminiscent of like early Manfred Mann, them with Van Morrison doing that rhythm and blues thing. And even though this one's got a little more on the pop rock side of things, with especially their big hits, which are my favorite off of here. What's the other one? I think it's the track Sometimes, might be my other favorite on this one. And they do some cover variations. The Gershwin Hayward track, Summertime. I'm almost sick of any cover variation of that one at this point. Just always skip that one. But yeah, it's got that kind of clubby, small club arena type of pop sound. That just doesn't really interest me, and I've never really been a big fan of Arden's vocals. Just doesn't do it for me. But having not ever owned this one, and knowing that it was, fairly uncommon to come across this, I had to check it out. The vinyl might look a little ugly, but it plays through pretty well. I'd say it's like G+, somewhere in that ball field. It's on Parrot, and yeah, this one and the Them albums, like Them Again with Van Morrison, always trashed. Every time. Now this next one might land me into more hot water if I wasn't already in trouble with some of my comments. So this is one where there are a lot of people in the community that do like this kind of sound, and notably Noble Records has turned a lot of people onto this record, but I've seen this a couple times in town and I've always passed on it, except for this, being a cheap bundle. I had to scoop this up because I just wanted to give it a chance. Sometimes you never know. The first time you play it on vinyl could hit you differently, right? At least I'm a believer in that philosophy. Well, there's a couple tracks that came out with this one. We're talking about Barbed Wire Sandwich, Black Cat Bones. It's on the PIP label, PIP. It's the same label that brought us Lightning. This features Rod Price, is it? Yeah, lead guitar. He was in lead vocal as well. Brian Short on vocals. Rod Price, he was in a Foghat. And then you got a couple of guitar players, the brothers, Derek Brooks and Stu Brooks, that were from Leafhound. And then you got the pianist who was in Aardvark, which I have that one on Decca. So I'm a fan of all that stuff, minus Foghat. But just considering that crew came together and recorded this, I just always kind of piqued my interest when I would look this thing up, and who can deny that artwork? I mean, that's some tasty stuff there. So what's my opinion on this? I think it's pretty dreadful, man. I mean, not being a fan of blues rock, It's just very slow paced. It's just like very traditional. It's got the basic blues shuffle. Not enough heaviness for me, except for a couple tracks. Chauffeur, which I did kind of like, but saving for my favorite track, Save My Love, on side 2, which gets a little heavier, a little more up-tempo. Really love the solo in the middle, or at least some of the riffage going on. And pretty heavy for its time. I think it was like, what, recorded in 69, at least the later year. I think it was, or at least early 1970. But overall, this is just not what I need in my rock music. I mean, I want it to be a little more in your face. I mean, I like how raw it sounds. The raw production to it is cool. You know, it's not all polished up like your typical rock albums around here, but this kind of falls into the same camp as Humble Pie, Free. Those two came to mind right away, you know, kind of in that ballpark. But I don't know what it is with British blues and blues rock in general for me, but this is like some of the worst for me. Just kind of a boring record to me, minus those 2 cuts. But yeah, I know there's some fans out there, so take it for what it is. It's got a nice sheen to it. It does have some surface marks, but surface noise, I mean. Some quieter moments, but yeah, just gave it a chance. Had to scoop it up when you see it there. You don't see it every day. It's black cat bones, barbed wire sandwich. Stick your teeth into that, you may have to go see the dentist. Okay, and on to this next one. This is a very admirable upgrade for me. This is probably my favorite Blues Magoos record, Basic Blues Magoos. It's their 3rd outing from the Mercury label. And this one, man, this is a lot different even prior to their first 2, you know, Psychedelic Lollipop, Electric Comic Book. And this is actually an upgrade for my copy. Mine got overgraded, undergraded, I don't know what you want to say. It was not the grade it was supposed to be. I think it was like a VG+. It sounds like G+ to me. But yeah, this is kind of more like their schizoid, sort of like, let's take some psychedelics and see what happens. Like maybe they up the speed dosage on this. I don't really know, but there's definitely something going on in the mix where it's like they're very just hyperactive, and some of the songs are just really upbeat, and it's almost like intoxicating when you listen to it for the first time. Some favorite tracks: Sybil Green of the In-Between, the opener, as well as Chicken Wire Lady, the last track. Some crazy whacked out song titles on here: President's Council on Psychedelic Fitness, Scarecrow's Love Affair, Accidental Meditation, which is a cool little instrumental, and then of course Subliminal Sonic Laxative. Take all the time you need on that one. Conditions can always kind of vary on this. Don't see it very often though. Kind of lost a little bit more of their garage roots, and then by this point they're kind of doing a little more straightforward psych rock, I'd say. Kind of throw it into that camp. So, it's recommended. Okay, we got 4 more here. I think we're going to go fairly quickly through them though, on these last few. So I've been meaning to pick this up for a while. I kind of knew what it sounded like. I had streamed this in the past. This is probably the best listen so far. This is another ABC record, The Purpose. I think the full title is The Purpose of the Purpose is the Blues. Now, given that that's in the title, The Purpose of the Purpose is the Blues, this one works for me. This is really good stuff. I think they're formed from the New York City area. As far as notable names, I think the sax player played with the Isley Brothers like in the early 60s. He had migrated from Florida and then just somehow joined this band. Johnny Mitchell. There's a man called Chocolate Wright and Fluffer Hirsch. John McDuffie. You got some funny names. Yeah, nice copy here. So it is kind of blues rock in nature. It's basically in their foundation, but they're doing a lot more different things than just that. There's like psychedelic soul, a little bit of a kind of a tame funk rock edge to it. It doesn't go fully hard out like, say, Purple Image or Funkadelic around this time. But they got the right ideas. And I can definitely see some hit singles from here. I don't think they had a single though. And this LP gets pretty slept on. Yeah, you could pick this up for like 20 bucks yet, I think. And this one surprised me. It's got some good moves on here. There's a track called Give In. Was the first mind opener. I was like, whoa, that was a nice surprise. Kind of reminds me of like Eric Burdon and the Animals a little bit. You got a track called Hippie Chick, which was nice. All of side one was really pretty consistent. It was really solid. And then once you get to like side two, it's kind of like, okay, let's just do a couple contemporary traditional things, sort of a pop rock kind of mold with sort of that soft funk edge to it. But look at those threads, man. Kind of jelly. I'd like to have some of those. Rock those these days. Just feels like a nice short stay, this one just kind of flies by. Nice clean copy. I didn't know if this was going to be a keeper or not when I first picked it up, but I was like, after that first listen, I'm like, yeah, this is a keeper. Okay, 3 more. Go through this one fairly quick. This is probably a contender for, maybe a top 5 country rock record of all time for me. Sand debut. We just talked about the other Sand from Germany. This is the American Sand. That yummy sandwich. So we got the barbed wire sandwich and we got the sand sandwich. Which one would you take a bite out of first? I think I'd have to go with this, but who knows how many ass cracks were in that sand. They had a couple records, so this is their first one. So mine is missing the hype sticker actually, so I might actually replace this with my old copy and give my copy to Jacob because he's a big fan of this one too. And man, if you have never heard this is like some of the best whiny, pedal steel driven, progressive country rock out there, man. This is really beautiful. And when I say country rock, you might have all those negative implications when I mention that, but it's beautifully done. The way that it's kind of got this really ethereal, cosmic sound to it, the way that it's just kind of wheezing, sort of pedal steel. Really tight percussive sounds. It's almost like pre-yacht rock. It's got that kind of soft rock touch to it, and yeah, it's a double LP, but 2 blank sides. I think the whole idea behind that was like, because it forms like a sandwich when you put it on the record player or something when it's rotating through the discs. Kind of a waste of money, but hey, they can spend it how they'd like. Pick this one up. This is Nilsson with The Point. This is kind of like a concept record, right? I think it was like based on a television series or child's music kind of recording. I'm not really sure the whole backstory on this, but from the tracks that I heard online over the years, it kind of piqued my interest to say the least. Got a little, what is this, a comic strip here? A little backstory to it all. So yeah, Nilsson, I never really dove into his records, never really picked them up till now. This is the first one. But from what I've heard, from different people, it's got kind of like a Beatle-y touch to it, maybe Paul McCartney-esque. He's not my favorite songwriter from the Beatles, but sometimes, like I said, those knockoffs, Emmett Rhodes, sometimes they do it right. Better than the source material itself. But The Point, yeah, I couldn't tell you much about this except it's a concept record. I've sampled a few tracks. Got to do a deep dive on this one yet. And then this last one was kind of like a whoopsie, because then I did find it later on Discogs, but at the time I could not find this one when I was at his house. And this is Solid Gold on the Artco label? See, I think I was trying to find it by the label, and I think I spelled it wrong and had no idea what this was. I figured it was kind of like a lounge pop, private press kind of thing, because it's signed on the back, and looked like some original tracks and string, horn arrangements. And I think it's just kind of one of those things where it was like a, sort of vanity press. It says Oklahoma City it was pressed at. Might have been from there. So 1974, I think this came out. I would never name my band Solid Gold, but yeah, don't know what that sounded like. I think I sampled maybe a couple tracks on there when I was at his house, and don't really remember what it sounded like other than sort of a loungy, soft rock kind of sound to it. Got to revisit it though. Thank you again. You know who you are out there. Longtime viewer, FM in Lincoln. I could stop back again, he said, and pick some more titles up, but in general, he had a lot of records. He has certainly a lot more than I do. However, a lot of it was just not up my alley. I think it was just a lot of typical, like a lot of collectors in town, or just in Nebraska, collect a lot of that Heartland, Midwest kind of classic rock stuff, and just got to really cherry pick a lot of that stuff nowadays, and to find what I love, of course. But that is all for now. So hope you guys enjoyed the stack, enjoyed the discussions, the controversies, the sandwiches, all of that. Have a good week, and we shall see you soon.